The rain drummed gently against the tinted windows of the sleek black town car as Victoria Langley stared out at the gray streets of downtown Chicago. It was nearly dusk, and the city buzzed with the energy of lives she no longer related to. At 47, Victoria was the CEO of Langley Tech, one of the most powerful women in Silicon Valley, and widely regarded as a genius innovator. She'd built an empire from nothing, at least, that's what the magazines always said. But nothing was a misnomer. Her father was a mid-level banker, her mother a piano teacher. They weren't rich, but they believed in her. They'd scraped together enough for her early tech camps and college prep. Now, 25 years later, she sat at the top of the world, surrounded by boardrooms, algorithms, and stock tickers. But tonight, something felt hollow. She was in Chicago for a speaking engagement, a keynote on the future of AI and the human spirit. The irony didn't escape her. Lately, the human part was what she felt furthest from. Her driver stopped at the corner near West Fulton Market, where she'd asked to be let out. She needed air, something real. She pulled the hood of her raincoat over her short-cropped hair and started walking. She had no destination in mind, just this vague ache she couldn't shake. A few blocks in, she spotted a small diner tucked between an upscale tapas bar and a designer pet boutique, Eli's Place. The fluorescent sign flickered slightly, casting a soft blue glow on the sidewalk. Something about its worn charm tugged at her. On impulse, she pushed the door open. The bell above jingled. Inside, the place was modest, linoleum floors, red vinyl booths, and an old jukebox humming gently in the corner. A single waiter moved from table to table with the kind of quiet urgency only those who've worked 12-hour shifts possess. His apron was stained, his hands rough, and he looked far too young to carry that kind of exhaustion in his eyes. Victoria took a seat in the corner, unnoticed. She didn't want to be seen, just to observe, to breathe. Then she saw them. The waiter had stopped at a booth near the window where a young boy, perhaps 6 or 7, sat quietly. His eyes were closed, and his hands gently felt the surface of the table. Blind. The waiter crouched in front of him, unwrapping a sandwich with careful fingers. "Here, Ben," the man said softly. "Turkey and cheese, no mustard, just like you like. You can eat while I finish the shift, okay, buddy?" The boy nodded and smiled. "Thanks, Daddy." Victoria felt something tighten in her throat. The man kissed the boy's forehead and returned to his work. Over the next 20 minutes, she watched as he juggled his duties, serving grumpy customers, clearing tables, refilling coffee cups, all while casting glances back to his son, who sat eating patiently, quietly, smiling every time his father looked over. When the rush cleared, the man returned to the booth with a bowl of soup. He broke a piece of bread in half and placed it gently in the boy's hand. "I'll have the rest when we get home," he said with a wink. That was the moment. The world seemed to slow. Victoria realized, the man hadn't eaten all day. His cheeks were hollow, his steps tired. Yet he gave the little he had to someone he loved more than himself. No one was watching, no one applauded. It was not charity for the sake of image. It was love. Quiet, invisible, selfless love, the kind the world didn't write headlines about. She sat frozen, her untouched cup of coffee growing cold. When the boy accidentally dropped his spoon, Victoria moved to help, but the father was there in a flash. He knelt, retrieved it, wiped it carefully, and placed it back into his son's hand, guiding his fingers with tenderness. "Always okay to drop things," he said softly. "We just pick them back up." Victoria blinked, and her vision blurred. Something inside her cracked wide open. All her boardroom decisions, her strategic moves, her quarterly wins, none of it compared to this father giving everything to his blind son in a corner booth of a forgotten diner. This wasn't innovation. This was humanity. She waited until the man finished his shift. As he helped his son into a second-hand coat and guided him carefully toward the door, Victoria stood and followed. Excuse me, she called gently. The man turned, startled. Up close, he looked even younger, maybe early 30s, but worn. Life had clearly come at him fast. Yes, ma'am. Victoria crouched down to the boy's level. Hi, Ben, she said softly. The boy smiled. Hi. She turned to the father. I saw you in there. You probably didn't notice me, but I saw everything. And I want to say thank you. He looked confused. For what? For reminding me what it means to be human. There was an awkward silence. The father nodded politely. I just do what any dad would. No, she said gently. You do more than most. She took a business card from her pocket and handed it to him. My name is Victoria Langley. I run a tech firm, Langley Tech. The man blinked, recognition dawning. Wait, you're the Victoria Langley? She smiled. Yeah, I guess so. Listen, I don't do this often, and I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but, would you consider coming to work with us? We need someone to run our on-site cafe. It comes with a salary, benefits, and a daycare program. You could bring Ben. There's a school for the blind nearby, too. I'd be happy to cover the tuition. The man stared at her as if she'd spoken a different language. I don't know what to say. Say yes, she said, her voice trembling. Let me do something that matters. Tears welled in his eyes. I was just trying to feed my son. And that, she said, is the most extraordinary thing I've seen in years. He nodded slowly. Okay. Yes. Yes. She crouched again, brushing a raindrop from Ben's cheek. You've got a good dad, Ben. I know, the boy said simply. That night, as Victoria returned to her hotel, the rain easing into a soft drizzle, something inside her felt warm for the first time in months. Not because she'd made a generous offer, but because she'd been reminded that the truest power lies not in wealth or fame or technology, but in the quiet, daily acts of love that ask for nothing in return. She rewrote her keynote that night. The next morning, she stood in front of thousands and spoke not of AI, not of innovation, but of a father and his blind son in a diner on a rainy night. She spoke of kindness, of unseen sacrifices, of what it really means to be alive. The speech went viral. But more importantly, so did the story of Eli and Ben. Langley Tech didn't just hire the man. They launched a new initiative, Project Second Sight, funding technologies for visually impaired children and hiring dozens of parents in need. Victoria made sure of it. And sometimes, on quiet afternoons, she'd visit the company cafe and sit with Eli and Ben, listening to the boys' laughter, remembering that rainy night when everything changed. Because sometimes, it only takes a moment, a dropped spoon, a warm sandwich, a father's quiet love, to change a billionaire's heart and, through her, the world.